All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello all. To all the far reaches of the world, we say hello to you. Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
And Albert is here today, everybody.
Albert, thank you.
The commish is on the case in the lifeguard chair. Who knows who he'll have to pull out of the water today. We have a really cool show. We'll be talking about the Middle East, of course, with John Rothman. I'll press him a little bit on many of the things that inform what's been happening over the last month. I'll also talk about the real threat that we may face here in the U.S. and worldwide from terrorism. I know it's kind of scary, but not everything in the show today is scary. In fact, I have a special greeting today, which I forgot to do yesterday. Yesterday, Tony, last minute, couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And then we had a bunch of other stuff happen. So in classic Mark Thompson Show fashion, I forgot an important birthday shout out. One of our diehard listeners. I know. There is no excuse. What can I do?
My bad.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So Teresa Wilson and her husband, Parks, they have been listeners from the, look at Kim with the, that's the birthday background.
I
love
am
it.
always ready for a party on the Mark Thompson Show. Bring it.
When she's not chit, she's blowing up balloons for the party.
Right. Yeah.
And she says, Teresa does, "Hi, Mark, my hubby Parks turns," and she doesn't say the age, but she says it's a big one. It's a big birthday. So a huge birthday shout out to Parks. And
big shout out.
Don't you have the picture of Parks and Teresa, Albert? There they are.
Aww.
Yeah. Look at the cute couple.
Yeah.
Thank you for your 1 year of service to the Mark Thompson Show, which includes support and ongoing listenership and viewership and subscribership. They seem very happy based on that picture, and apparently the communications reflect nothing but happiness. So, wishing you the best. First of all, Parks is like the coolest name.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know if that's his first name or last name. They may call him Parks, and it's not really. Look, I don't ask a lot of questions.
I bet it's his first. It sounds very fancy, like Parks Chandler. Parks.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Yes, Mark, please.
Yeah.
You can address me by my Christian name, Parks.
It is a cool name, though.
I'll tell you. So here's what I think.
We kid Parks, but we love it.
Well, Parks, here's the deal. I think you're a musician, and that's a very cool musician name.
Yeah.
So he's just the opposite of the highfalutin. He's kind of like, he's playing gigs, man.
It's a good sports name too. Up at bat, it's Parks Jones.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a good.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I like
a bit pub singerish, I thought.
Oh, because he's a singer? How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you? I just.
What do you think I'm going to say to you?
Okay, we're going to do a whole Simon riff on the poor birthday boy. We love you, Parks, and
happy birthday.
Happy birthday, and I'm going to give you a Kim chit just for the magic of your birthday. Yeah. There is much to do today, and we'll get right into it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
By the way, I got some comments. I like to read the comments in After Hours Trading on our show, and a lot of good comments about David K. Johnston, who spoke yesterday of the 14th Amendment perhaps keeping Donald Trump off the ballot in certain states. He spoke to, if you haven't seen it, he spoke to the realities concerning both those court cases. And I say those because it will likely, right now it's being pursued in, I think, 2 states, but it may be pursued in additional states. the reality of that actually coming to pass, that is to say, the removal of Donald Trump from the ballot or the barring of Donald Trump from the ballot. And in addition to that, the other reality, which is, okay, you remove him from the ballot in certain states, it doesn't necessarily preclude his ability to gain the presidency, because unless it was a state that he was likely to, have a chance to carry, it really doesn't affect his presidential fortunes. So you see a little bit there. But anyway, a lot of good reaction to that. And then on the question of what's happening in Gaza and Israel, Williams says, it's all politics, mate. Christians, Jews, Arabs got along living together for millennia. Back 5,000 years ago. Yeah, well, things have changed in 5,000 years. And then to Trump in court. And it would be interesting if this went all the way to the Supreme Court, because they are such strict constitutionalists. So strictly speaking, Trump would not be able to hold office. There's something else happening Trump-related. So anyway, we look back at your comments, so feel free to leave them in after hours commenting if you're watching in replay. And of course, we try to watch your comments. Really, Albert and Kim will watch the comments today to keep an eye on things. There is something going on with, and I will get to the terrorist warning and the warning from the FBI director about terror here in this country and worldwide, and we want to speak to that in some detail, so I will get to it. But I wanted to mention that there is kind of big stuff going down in both the Trump fraud trial and then, speaking of money, in the Sam Bankman-Fried trial. Today, I think Don Jr. is going to be taking the stand.
Yeah, that's right.
They're forcing him to testify. He's the eldest son.
What?
Yes, of Don, the former president, Don Trump. And Don Jr. is, he's in a $250 million lawsuit brought by the New York Attorney General, and he's being compelled to testify. He's got a lot of holdings that relate to the Trump company, and as a result, an officer of the company. You can imagine if there are fraud charges against the company, he's compelled to testify, and that's what they've done. Do you have a package on that, Albert? Am I or not? I forget.
No, I have a Sam Bankman-Fried ready.
You have Sam Bankman-Fried. So stand by with Sam Bankman-Fried. So as executive vice presidents, the three children, we're talking about the Trump kids, Don Jr., Eric, and that adorable Ivanka. The three children were intimately involved in the operation of the Trump Organization business. This is all stipulated in the legal complaint. While the Attorney General's team had planned to call Trump Jr. today, it's possible his testimony could slip a day. Kim, you'll watch that for us, because I think there are live cameras trained on the courtroom, and, there's all of that live feed from this fraud trial. Mm-hmm. But they called an expert witness, the Attorney General, a guy named Michael McCarty, to testify. He'll be questioned and cross-examined before Trump Jr. takes the stand, so that may push everything if you're following the X's and O's of that fraud trial. But in the deposition that they took last year from Trump Jr., he distanced himself from all the finances. It's funny how the Trump finances, now that they're being...
no, I didn't do it. It wasn't me.
Yeah, they're like 10-foot pole marks all over the, the tax information. I don't know. The lawyer did it. was, Weisselberg. It was the... Yeah.
I didn't say how much it was worth.
Yeah. I had no real involvement in the preparation of the statement of financial conditions. And I don't really remember ever working on it with anyone, Trump Jr. said in the deposition. Again, people may have asked me about stuff tangentially, which is a ding word. I gave them an answer to that and may have then utilized as a basis of knowledge to come up with whatever, but, well, talk about a word salad. But no, specifically as it relates to, knowledge about the financial statement, this is all Don Jr. speaking. Of course, Don Jr. has worked in commercial leasing for the Trump Organization, including the 40 Wall Street property, which is at issue in this lawsuit. Anyway, he's saying, again, this is from his deposition, quote, those people, and he's talking about the accounting and legal departments there at Trump It's a small organization. They make it sound like it's this big place, but it's not. It's really a family business. He ran the country like that, right? Donald Trump became president, and his closest advisors and the people he put in charge of everything were just his family members. Are they the most qualified to do that? I mean, if Biden had done that, they would have run him out of town. The Democrats would have run him out of town. Those people would have had more intimate understanding. He's talking about the accounting and legal departments of the specifics of those things. And whoever was bringing me a document, it was more accounting. It was probably from accounting. It was more legal. It would be from legal. And hey, are you okay signing this document? Do you believe it to be honest and accurate? And if they were okay with it, they'd have much more knowledge than I would ever be able to amass. So I would just sign it, he said in his deposition. So you're going to get some version of that on the stand, as he's called. The other big trial involving money is Sam Bankman-Fried. And he testified in his own defense.
Big mistake.
Unless you really have it well choreographed, it is a big mistake. Here's Albert with a little background on what happened.
On Tuesday, the prosecution focused on Sam Bankman-Fried's actions in the weeks and months before FTX imploded last year. When asked if he had fired anyone once he discovered the company had misappropriated $8 billion in customer funds, Bankman-Fried replied, no. Prosecutors also questioned why he didn't tell anyone to stop spending customer deposits, to which he responded, quote, I deeply regret not taking a better look into it.
The problem is he's saying what he did was a mistake. What everyone else is saying is no. You knew what you were doing.
CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman says Bankman-Fried's decision to take the stand may work against him.
The jurors may stop considering first the government's evidence and will really be looking at one question. Do we believe Sam Bankman-Fried?
Earlier this week, the prosecution took aim at Bankman-Fried's credibility, using his own words against him numerous times during cross-examination, including private messages with a reporter where the crypto billionaire said his support of industry regulations was, quote, just PR, followed by expletive regulators. Bankman-Fried seemed flustered at times as well, often saying he couldn't recall key events, which appeared to frustrate the judge.
The jury watched the judge interrupt Sam Bankman-Fried's testimony to remind him to answer questions clearly.
If the judge is reprimanding Sam Bankman-Fried, even simply to say, you're being evasive, answer the question. What the jury takes from that is that the judge is saying to them that the defense is not the party to trust.
Right. Now, closing arguments begin this morning, and then it's up to the jury. If convicted,
thank you. Yeah. Oh, he could go to prison for a very long time. Thank you, a person with a faint British accent. The deal with Bankman-Fried is that he was doing a lot of PR for FTX along the way, magazine covers and big business conferences. He was a big deal. I mean, look, let's face it, billions of dollars in just siphoned off money is what we're talking about. They siphoned off a bunch of investment money over to that Alameda research place, which was run by his folks. The whole thing is really dirty. And you realize, this is why people hate tech bros. Because this guy was all show and no go. But the show was so good that money just flowed into his fund. And he was hanging out with Tom Brady, and he was donating to political campaigns, and he was moving, offshore and living offshore, this kind of decadent life, or at least this bohemian lifestyle. I mean, had it been legit, had you not siphoned off funds, it might have been sort of just unconventional and passable. Instead, it's fraud. I mean, it's fraud, and you were stealing. So it doesn't look good for Bankman-Fried. I'd suggest that there's a general, and you can tell me if you agree with me, I don't know. But I think there's a general disposition that's negative toward these tech bro billionaires who, then run afoul of the law if you end up in front of a jury, I guess and I understand they do voir dire and they choose their jurors and the consistency of the jury is something that is very well scrutinized by both sides. But I'd suggest that there's just a basic negative disposition that one has toward billionaires who seem to defraud. Same thing you found with Theranos, right?
You think that though that the punishment for this one, usually I'm the one saying the punishment is too light, right? But could be life in prison for Sam Bankman-Fried because of the, I guess, amount of money stolen, the law is broken. This could be a life sentence.
Yeah, I'll tell you what bothers me about the life sentence thing. It's not the life sentence. What bothers me is that there is an asymmetry between the life sentence that is doled out because he's stolen billions of dollars, and then somebody else in San Francisco who is found guilty of, multiple repeat assaults and violent crimes who, gets 2 years and then is washed back out into the system.
Right.
There's just a disconnect between the stealing of a lot of money, read white collar criminal, and violent criminal. This is my sense of it. It's just not fair to those of us who fear violent crime and feel that violent crime should be handled in a very stern way in our communities. And so I don't mean to make it all about violent crime, but it's just weird. So they're ready to send this guy away, and I get it. It's billions of dollars. I'm not suggesting that he shouldn't, go rot. But there's another part of the legal system and the criminal justice system which doesn't seem to provide the same kind of stern treatment of those who are guilty of violent crime.
Yeah.
So that's my issue. Yeah. But I also don't know how this is going to go down. I mean, look at this in the is Spencer saying, is you talking about this guy will serve 2 years? I mean, it's possible some deal is made, I don't know. Right. But it is true. When you steal from rich people, if you steal from enough rich people, and certainly if you steal from the government, they're going to come after you, and they're going to come after you hard. And the penalties are serious. So anyway, that's what's happening in a couple of high-profile trials that do involve money on this Wednesday. And I also...
The Mark Thompson Show.
I also wanted to note the two things, that there was a teenager arrested. You talk about violent crimes and the like. In Maine, a teen arrested after posting a photo threatening Lewiston Part 2. Of course, Lewiston is where that carnage unfolded, that assault rifle wielding sick former Marine. This guy is in Maine. He's a teenager. He's 18 years old. He shared a photo of himself wielding a gun and ammunition in a Walmart parking lot alongside the message Lewiston Part 2. Michael Bowden is his name. He's a former Walmart employee.
God, he looks like he's 12.
Right. He's got that boyish face. He lives in Etna, Maine, about an hour and a half north of Lewiston.
How old is he?
He's 18.
Oh, man.
He took the picture at the Walmart location in the nearby small town of Palmyra. Then he sent the photo to a Walmart employee who's a Walmart employee now. As I say, he's a former Walmart employee. During a Snapchat exchange. He was fired from the Walmart, by the way, in 2021. And since then, he's made frequent late-night visits to the store's parking lot. That's got to be eerie.
Yeah.
He was seen in the picture holding a Savage bolt-action hunting rifle. Police arrested him without incident at his home and seized the .308 caliber gun. It's unclear whether the firearm was purchased legally. In Maine, people as young as 18 are allowed to buy hunting rifles. He's now out on $10,000 bail.
That's it?
Yeah. So, again, you kind of go to you're back and forth on this, but, And then there is...
Did they take his guns, hopefully?
Yeah, they took the gun. Yeah, they took the gun. And then there is this bizarre death on the streets of San Francisco. It was a car accident, and it killed this actor who was going to make his stage debut in this show. Richard May is his name. He was on his way to a rehearsal for the company's production of Death of a Salesman. It's the African-American Shakespeare Company. It sounds like it's going to be a great show. I mean, a great stage production. Of course, Death of a Salesman is one of the classic Arthur Miller plays, right?
Yeah.
And this was his first working job as a paid actor, apparently. The day he was supposed to perform in front of a live audience was the day of his death, said Sherry Young, the company's founder and executive director. She gave an interview about him. The crash was around 11 o'clock in the morning on Post Street, about 12 blocks north of the Taube Atrium Theater, where he was set to perform. Police said a vehicle collided with another vehicle and May, the pedestrian. The driver of the vehicle that crashed remained in police custody, and criminal charges are being considered. The company canceled the upcoming preview of Death of a Salesman, in which May was set to appear, but planned to continue the production, replacing him with another actor. Still sad, you know? I mean, not still sad, is sad.
Yeah.
I'm really, I was just so bummed to see that. I don't know. And I don't mean to bum you out. We talk about San Francisco a lot on this show because the show was born in San Francisco originally. So we kind of look back to San Francisco when something weird happens and something, there's a lot going on in the Bay Area. We try to give it a little bit of oxygen. But I want to get into the rise of anti-Semitism, not only on college campuses, but everywhere. It is scary. And it is not just anti-Semitism. It is a warning that's being issued by the FBI director. Yesterday, I'll just give you a little bit of this, and then I'll get into it with Rothman a little bit as well.
The Mark Thompson Show.
The director of the FBI is Christopher Wray, and he has said that the U.S. is in a dangerous period, to use his words, as various terrorist groups look to leverage the conflict in the Middle East for their own causes. The threat of international terrorism in the U.S. had largely subsided recently. You had ISIS sort of being, if not dismantled, a little bit neutered. You had Al-Qaeda, if not dismantled, a bit neutered. But senior American officials say Hamas's deadly October 7th attack on Israel has created a new dynamic with dangerous implications at home and abroad. Quote, this is from Christopher Wray, the reality is that the terrorism threat has been elevated throughout 2023, but the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States to a whole other level. He was testifying before the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. Hamas's attack, which killed some 1,400 people in Israel, will serve as an inspiration, these are his words, will serve as an inspiration the likes of which we haven't seen since ISIS launched its so-called caliphate years ago. Now, he did say the FBI has no evidence of an imminent threat from a foreign terrorist group, but he did note that since Hamas's attack on Israel, Al-Qaeda has issued its most specific call for violence against the U.S. in years.
That's what we need.
While the Islamic State has urged its followers to target Jewish communities in the United States and Europe. Israel and Gaza, this whole conflict is being used in extremist propaganda, as you might imagine. The director of the National Counterterrorism Center said that the Israel-Hamas war has featured, alongside it, messaging and propaganda since October 7th. Quote, we've seen it from Al-Qaeda affiliates, almost every single one of them. We've also seen it from ISIS, which isn't ideologically aligned with a group like Hamas. But is still leveraging the current conflict to try to sow the kind of violence, bring adherents to its cause in a kind of exploitive way. That's from Christine Abazaid, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. On the home front, Wray is saying the biggest concern for the FBI is that violent extremists, including people inspired by foreign terrorist groups, but also domestic violent extremists, will draw inspiration from the ongoing conflict to carry out attacks against Americans. Quote, "We've seen that already with the individual we arrested last week in Houston, who'd been studying how to build bombs and posted online about his support for killing Jews. And with the tragic killing of a 6-year-old Muslim boy in Illinois, in what we're investigating as a federal hate crime." But Wray said he's also concerned about traditional formal terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, or Hezbollah, potentially carrying out strikes in the U.S.
Wow.
Again, quote, "We are not currently tracking an imminent credible threat from a foreign terrorist organization, a structured attack here or something like that, but it is something that we think heightened vigilance is warranted for. It's a time to be concerned," he said. "We are in a dangerous period. It's not a time for panic. It is a time for vigilance."
We've heard all this hate speech, whipped up and whipped up and whipped up and whipped up until finally action is taken. That's the scary thing.
Well, truths are perverted and lies are manufactured. And those, and this I'll talk to John Rothman about a little bit, but those who are anti-Semites, they just don't like Jewish people. It goes beyond that. They want to perpetrate violence against Jewish people. This is, they seize a kind of moral leverage because of Gaza. And so they use it as an excuse, really, to perpetrate the violence and the hatred against Jews that they always had to begin with. And Muslims, same thing. So Muslim terrorists, this barbarism is perpetrated upon Israel, the beheadings and the which, by the way, were legitimate and turned out were documented. Those are, and the mass murder of all of those people, that's used as leverage to speak about the Muslim jihad and the, and sort of Muslim hatred that boils below the surface. It's a net loss for the Jewish community worldwide and for the Muslim community worldwide. Meantime, Israel, of course, in what was expected, and I will talk again with Rothman in just a moment about this, and what was expected, I think it was, honestly, Hamas designed this entire thing for exactly what's happening. We will hit Israel with the most barbaric, awful, organized terror, atrocity-filled attack that we can, and they will angrily respond with the kind of asymmetric response that they have. And in the bombing and in the broad response that Israel will predictably launch, you will get a complete scuttling of any peace conversation. You'll get a complete scuttling of any normalization of relations between the Saudis and the Israelis, and so on. But we're playing with fire here because even beyond that, this regional conflict could grow. So we'll talk a bit about that with John Rothman coming up. The important thing, I think, is not only all of that, but the dramatic rise in anti-Semitic incidents in this country and on college campuses, places where you would expect a modicum of restraint. You do not see restraint. It's scary. So, finally, I'll give you a little good news, and then we'll get to Kim's news, and then John Rothman. So, the good news is related to the actors' strike. The actors. Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird. It's another thing going on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
SAG-AFTRA will meet with the studios again today. I've talked to people inside this negotiation, and they tell me that this strike may resolve by next week.
Oh, that's
They expect to be
good.
back at work, somebody was saying to me. who is really connected. So they will meet again today. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers will meet with SAG-AFTRA. They had a productive day of talks yesterday. And there is a, quote, a cautious optimism about it all. The union is continuing to bargain over the use of artificial intelligence, which has become one of the key issues that's still on the table. And the union is not seeking to forbid studios from using AI to create digital doubles, but they do want language guaranteeing consent and minimum compensation for using AI in place of or to augment the work of acting professionals. The union has also sought to restrict AI training on past work and has asked for provision giving the union a veto over AI uses. So there's still some asks here, but apparently here, this 111th day of the SAG-AFTRA strike, they are optimistic. And I'll remind you that labor is having a moment in America. I mean, they got a record deal in the auto industry. The UAW did really well with that negotiation. And there have been strikes here in California with Kaiser. And, you know, this is a period of for labor, a little unrest, but also some victories. So anyway, that's the word out of the SAG-AFTRA strike. And I thought you'd appreciate that update. Yeah. Smash the like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod. It's free. We try to cover it all for you. We'll get to Rothman next. A brief news capsule from the Queen of News.
Kim, how are you?
Yes, Kim.
A queen today, am I, huh?
You're a queen every day.
Okay.
You're a queen every day.
There's a queen of brief news, actually, just for today.
Super brief.
Brief news. Queen of brief. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because Rothman's got places. Rothman's got, lectures to give and books to write, and he's got a podcast to do. Yeah. Do we have time for Kim's news, Albert, or are you just trying to be polite and say we don't really have time for it?
You can bump me till after. That's all right.
You want to bump?
I think we should do a supersized here.
Okay.
Albert, thank you.
All right, so the deal is we will do the news capsule, you're saying, after our conversation with Rothman?
And that one doesn't have to be brief either. We could take our time. And
you're saying we can supersize. You're gonna super pay off Kim at the top of the next hour, is what you're saying, Albert?
In true American fashion, we're gonna supersize it. Yep.
All right. So Kim's news will wait. Rothman next. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
My wife wants some vegetables for Coup Day.
I was a basketball referee.
Feels great, baby.
Who's Mark Thompson? It's unbelievably offensive.
What he's got going here is a situation.
I was fortunate. Everyone I worked with made me better at my job.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Yeah, it is a Wednesday. Wednesdays bring this guy in. He has... as a student of history and a student of presidential politics, a student of Middle East history and Middle East politics. He's written books on the subject, so we can cover as much as we can get to today. The Honorable John Rothman. Hello, John.
Good morning.
I'll mention the podcast now, and I'll do it at the end too, the Around the Political World with John Rothman, which is a daily podcast John offers. And I'll get right into the Middle East, a complicated situation marked by tragedy on tragedy. I wonder if you could speak to what's happening there and the ripple effects.
Well, the ripple effects are what are particularly interesting for me, and that is what you referred to, which is the rise of Jew hatred, not only on American campuses, but in general in the world. It is a serious question for Jews everywhere. Security around synagogues, Jewish community centers have been stepped up. I heard an interview this morning with the director of Hillel in Georgia. Hillel is the campus Jewish Life, who pointed out that there was a young Jewish man without a yarmulke on, without a Star of David on his neck, but who everybody knew was a Jew, and he was assaulted. The White House, as you pointed out, is stepping up their concerns, and the director of the FBI spoke yesterday with great eloquence about it. I want to begin with that because I think everything else spills over. You are precisely correct. I think Hamas knew exactly what it was doing in killing 1,400 Israelis in the most brutal fashion. By the way, it didn't matter whether they were Israeli citizens or just visiting. If they were Jews, they were the target. And as I pointed out on this broadcast last week with you, the target really must be understood. It is Jews, wherever they may live. So this is a serious issue. Israel is now responding, and they make the statement that the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is directly credited to Hamas. No accountability for Hamas. And I must tell you, all the resolutions that have been passed by the United Nations, by various bodies, no one condemns the murder of Jews. And this is something that is absolutely startling to the Israelis. Do they put this in the context of a war against Israel alone? No. It is clearly a war against Jews, and all you have to do is talk to any member of the Jewish community anywhere in the United States, on any campus or in any community. All you have to do is drive by a synagogue in any town or city in the United States, and you will see the impact of what is happening. It is horrific, and I have to tell you, profoundly disturbing.
It's interesting because the Jewish community, I think, is fractured on this issue as to what should happen, because it is such a complicated issue. When I say what is to happen, you can take that any way you want. You can talk about the response, what to do, how to handle the Hamas issue. I think it's indisputable that Hamas wants Israel gone. It's a weird thing too, because Israel did have a relationship with Hamas, John. It's an uncomfortable fact, but it is true.
Well, if you want to talk about a relationship, it's true. Israel kept hands off of Gaza, feeling that if Hamas could govern Gaza effectively and not threaten Israel's security, that Hamas could be tolerated. There were those of us, and I include myself in that number, who were very skeptical about that, in part because I deal with members of Hamas on a fairly steady basis. And so all I can tell you without any hesitation or doubt, there's no division in the Jewish community in the United States about the security of Jews, either in Israel or around the world. What is depressing is, let us assume for a minute, Mark, that there had been a two-state solution. Well, we know that if free elections were held on the West Bank, Hamas would have won. Can you imagine, in your wildest dreams, a Palestinian state controlled by Hamas on the border of Israel at a point where Israel is only 9 miles wide? I know people who jog 9 miles every day. I am not one of them. So for Israel, it is an existential threat, and one cannot speak of peace in the broad general sense. And something happened today. The Jordanians have withdrawn their ambassador from Israel as a protest for what is happening. And I have to tell you, for the Jordanians, this is a big issue. About 80% of the Kingdom of Jordan are made up of Palestinians. It is a very serious problem for the Jordanian monarchy. Let's point out, is the Hashemite kingdom, because the Hashemites rule. But it doesn't leave much room for hope. And that's the problem. I don't know that there's any effective method that can be employed. One other quick point, then we can go on. I listen carefully to all the commentaries on the various news networks. I really do. I haven't been getting much sleep. But the one thing that amused me or confused me or upset me is the constant reference by the spokesman for the Palestinians, Hamas or not, of 75 years of occupation. My dear friends, 75 years of occupation goes back to 1948. Israel is not occupying an area that it is not entitled to occupy. If you talk about an occupation since 1948, then you're speaking about the elimination of Israel. And no person in right mind would consider that. One other, I can go on forever, Mark, so you've got to tell me.
Well, the one thing I would say about that is it's worth reminding everyone that Israel was set up. The British controlled it, but it was set up that area of the world that was ultimately ceded to this new state of Israel. But it was crafted and set up by the UN. So
yes, and also remember that it wasn't just a Jewish state that was created; it was a Palestinian Arab state that was created. And
in fact, that was the existential threat to Israel in the early days.
I'm talking about 1947. 1948, when the United Nations passed Resolution 242 in 1967, it said it as well. There is no doubt about it. The Palestinian state was seized in 1948-49 by King Abdullah I of Jordan. No Arab Palestinian state was created. And as you read in my book, Icon of Evil, Hitler's Mufti and the Rise of Radical Islam, I understand completely the Palestinian desperation. They didn't get a state in 1948 because their own Arab brothers betrayed them. In 1967, the Arab states thought they could defeat Israel in a war, and they planned to wipe Israel off the face of the map, and they were defeated. And this is a great frustration for the Arab world. But I want to also draw the difference between Hamas, which is a terrorist organization committed to Israel's destruction, and the Palestinian Authority, which Israel crafted an agreement with. They agreed. But you understand that the Palestinian Authority has no power, no sense, and frankly, has not condemned what Hamas did.
Look, I don't think it changes where we are now, but let me just push back a little bit on the Palestinian Authority argument, because the reality is, John, they were, as you just noted, unable to really manage anything. I mean, the Palestinian Authority was sort of this tepid group that, I understand they had an official title, but as you suggested, Hamas was the real coexisting power that, among the Gazans and also on the West Bank. Although the West Bank also was populated, I know, by other sort of one-off terrorist organizations. But my point simply is that when you say, hey, Israel was reaching out to the Palestinian Authority, it was like, yeah, but they're a nothing. And so...
But that's not the fault of Israel. That is the fault of the Palestinians. And I want to remind you that when Israel withdrew from Gaza, the Palestinian Authority was put in charge. The Israelis withdrew unilaterally. And if you remember, Arik Sharon, who was then the prime minister of Israel, said very clearly, this is a test. Show us we can have peaceful coexistence on the border with Gaza, and we can make adjustments in the West Bank as well. What happened? Hamas won an election, then seized complete power, killing the Palestinian Authority representatives, throwing them off buildings, and you can see it on YouTube. And what was the response of the world? Nothing. And Israel has put up with rockets being fired, occasionally having to respond directly. And what have we today? This was not a situation created by Israel. It was a situation and is a situation created by Hamas. Why are people dying right now? Because where does Hamas put its military infrastructure, its political infrastructure? In the middle of civilian populations. And so what do you expect the Israelis to do? They are not going to allow themselves to be destroyed. One other point, you know that we are waiting now on Hezbollah in Lebanon, which has, depending upon your numbers, about 150,000 rockets that are far more sophisticated than the ones that Hamas is using. Let me assure you that if those rockets start to fly, the Israelis cannot, through Iron Dome, protect themselves. And that will mean mass destruction in Tel Aviv and in Haifa. And if you think I'm being overly concerned, last night I was talking to friends who are in Tel Aviv when the sirens went off and they had to hang up the phone in order to go to the bomb shelters. Now,
the reality is if you get lost, we've talked about this on the show before, that Hezbollah, as you've suggested, is far more technologically sophisticated than Hamas, although Hamas is not, it's not your daddy's terrorist group anymore. They are sophisticated. Hey, look at their latest incursion into Israel. That was, well-trained, well-choreographed.
And now you understand why in Israel, and why our listeners should understand why in Israel there is a fear of an existential threat to the very survival of Israel.
This is a continuation of the 1948 war and will go on as long as there are religions in the Middle East.
No, this isn't religion. Let me be clear. Religion plays a role because Hamas is a fundamentalist group associated, I would remind you, with the Muslim Brotherhood. But this has to do with a political problem of trying to create a place for Palestinians to have independence. And let me be clear. The Palestinians have rights. But those rights will not be gained at the expense of Israel's right to exist. And that's the bottom line for Israel.
Let's talk about then the Palestinian rights in Gaza, because I think what happened most recently, John, in response to the atrocities that were perpetrated by Hamas, is this bombing campaign in Gaza. Look, as you said, I mean, you've got Hamas fighters and leaders and infrastructure that is embedded in the civilian population. I understand that. Still, I'd suggest that Israel has lost so much high ground, sadly, within world opinion because of the bombing of Gaza. I think this is also part of the Hamas plan, to be honest. But that doesn't mean that they haven't lost that ground. Please go ahead.
What the Israelis are saying is they don't mind losing the high ground, because if they lose the high ground, they may lose all the ground, and they may be gone. And I can tell you that the one thing that Israel, no matter whether the left or the right governs in Israel, will not stand for is the elimination of Israel as a nation. And that is what we are facing, and that's what the West faces now. When the president's national security advisor and when the director of the FBI describe these issues in such stark ways, it has to be understood. I said it to you last week. When they chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. The river is the Jordan, the sea is the Mediterranean, and what's in the middle is Israel. The Israelis will not permit themselves to be destroyed. And may I add, the United States, under the leadership of Joe Biden, but I want to point out among Republicans as well, making clear in a bipartisan way that the destruction of Israel is not on the agenda, and that is what Hamas is demanding.
On campuses around America, anti-Semitism rising, calls for raping and killing Jewish students at Cornell. They actually arrested a kid who launched those threats. France, which has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel and the United States, has seen a surge in anti-Semitic acts since the Hamas bloody attack in southern Israel on October 7th. Victims in that attack, of course, were victims of horrible atrocities. You would have thought that might have chilled people. Instead, it animated anti-Semitic acts. France's Interior Ministry reported 719 anti-Semitic acts and 389 arrests between October 7th and today. Germany reporting 202 anti-Semitic acts, and so on. There's a rise in this, John. It's bubbling beneath the surface.
Jews will not roll over on this. Jews will be determined, are determined, that their safety and security, whether in the United States, in France, in Germany, in Russia, where you saw what happened at a Russian airport.
They stormed the Russian airport trying to pull Jews off the plane. In fact, they did. Dozens of pro-Palestinian protesters in Barcelona occupied a hotel owned by an Israeli businessman. I mean, it's really brutal.
And
worldwide.
The Israelis understand it. The Jewish community understands it. And I can assure you this is not 80 years ago. The Jews of the world will not stand for this. And the world has to stand with the Jews. I was shocked when the United Nations passed its resolution. Not that they passed the resolution condemning what Israel is doing in Gaza, but that nowhere in the resolution is there any mention of what Hamas did to the Israelis. And I have to tell you, this double standard, you know, it's a curious thing. Eric Hoffer, the great longshoreman philosopher who I knew quite well here in San Francisco.
Wow, you knew Eric Hoffer. That's impressive, sir.
No, it's not impressive. He was lived here in San Francisco. So did I, same time. And we were both active in the labor operation.
He's a true intellectual. Go ahead.
He once said, the problem with the world is they expect the Jews to be the only real Christians in the world. Well, let me assure you, the Israelis are not going to turn the other cheek, nor are Jews who live outside of Israel. And thank God, the United States of America stands firmly with Israel. May I say, I'm not surprised, but I am severely upset about the Republican attitude in the House of Representatives in trying to reduce IRS agents and to take that money and apply it for aid to Israel. And by the way, they're very ambivalent about aid to Ukraine. What the Republican Party is doing is absurd. And the new Speaker of the House of Representatives met today with his Republican colleagues in the Senate, and they're not going to go along with this kind of nonsense. So we have an internal problem as well in this country. And the Democratic Party has a very small faction, the Squad, who continue their hateful rants And ultimately, the Democratic Party will have to deal with their problems as the Republicans will have to deal with theirs.
Well, I'm glad you got into the politics of it, just because that is your, one of your strengths. And I think that what's happening in the Democratic Party, John, is that you're going to see a melting away of support for Israel. I believe that that's going to happen. I mean, I think that the kind of this hand kind of plays itself, sadly. The Israeli response to the Hamas atrocities, predictable and overwhelming. And because it's so overwhelming, you get the international community, and now with an excuse, you may say, or a legitimate, a reason to try to shame Israel about it. And then you have the Democratic Party, this gets to the point, and their support for Israel, which has always been fairly steadfast, apart from those that you just mentioned, that begins to melt away in the face of what is then perceived as overreaction. I mean, whatever that is, or too much in the way of bombing of civilians in Gaza on the part of Israel.
I don't accept that. And I believe it's a myth being promulgated by Fox News. I believe that the Democratic Party stands firm. All you have to do is listen to future leaders of the Democratic Party. Hakeem Jeffries, Gavin Newsom, Amy Klobuchar. You have to listen to the voices of the Democratic Party. If you listen to the fringes, and people ask me about the fringes, I remember when the Republican Party had Pete McCloskey, and it had others in there, Paul Findley out of Illinois, who were viciously anti-Israel, and I would say Jew haters. And ultimately, the Republican Party handled that faction. I need not remind you of Pat Buchanan and my old friend William F. Buckley, who once described Pat Buchanan's anti-Semitism by saying, if it waddles like a duck and quacks like a duck and looks like a duck, it's a duck. And what did he say? Pat, you're a duck. Well, all I can say is the same thing we have in the Democratic Party. We have the extremes. What is fascinating to me is the extremes of the left and the right agree on one thing. They're not sympathetic to Israel, and they're not sympathetic to Jews. And that, to me, is something that should be very telling for everybody. Listen, Israel isn't a perfect country. Nobody claims that it is. The United States is not a perfect country. But does anybody in the world with any rationality call for the destruction of the United States of America? And when America committed atrocities, and we did commit atrocities in Iraq and in Afghanistan, did the world then say that America had ceased to have the moral authority or indeed the right to exist? That is the standard being applied to Israel. I say, no country is perfect. Apply the same standard to Israel that we apply to the United States. And let us understand that when Israel gets through this crisis, there will be a reckoning, and they will have to deal with their own internal political problems. But this is a time when the world should stand united with Israel. And by the way, we have to help the Palestinians too. There's no.
Well, I was about to say. I mean, you can't. I mean, there are those who would say, "Please, it's a time that the world has to recognize the plight of the Palestinians, the fact that they are.
We always have.
Most of them are innocents that are losing their lives to Israeli bombing.
And that's why the Palestinian community itself has to repudiate Hamas. And I would say the most important and effective thing that could happen would be for the Hamas leadership to simply say, we accept Israel's right to exist.
No, well,
we are going to release. I know they won't. I didn't say they would, Mark. But what's your alternative? Have you heard?
No, I mean, this is why there are.
Abbas stand up and say anything? You know, he's being quiet. Of course, he's 86 years old, and his logical successor is a man who is committed to Israel's destruction.
Mahmoud Abbas is the leader of the Palestinian Authority.
So what do you know? How do you deal with this? This is a question that needs to be understood. We are talking about a threat not only to the very existence of the state of Israel, but we're also talking about a threat to Jews who are not Israelis and who live in the United States or in Europe or in Russia or wherever they live. And if the world doesn't understand that for Jews, we remember what happened 80 years ago when the world did not speak up, when the world was silent. And I can assure everyone, when the term never again is used, it is used with precision. The difference is this time, the Israelis have the ability to fight back. And I must say, the American Jewish community does as well. And the American Jewish community is responding, particularly because of what's happening on campuses with students.
Yes, I wouldn't disagree with much of what you said. I mean, I think you cast it so beautifully, but I also feel as though many of these same arguments can be woven around the increased visibility of this Palestinian issue, and the young minds on college campuses are divided, sometimes in pitched battle. I mean, I mentioned to you that I mentioned to you that.
Will you separate, please, the Palestinian issue, which deserves recognition and a solution, from Hamas?
Right.
Hamas doesn't want a solution.
I think that's fair. Hamas is using the Palestinian issue, you'd say, right? To just they want the elimination of.
I don't know. Let me say, I don't know that they're using the issue, but I would say that regret, and I say this with deep regret, that what Hamas is expressing about Israel and about Jews is an undercurrent that exists in the broader Palestinian and Arab community. And the hope with Oslo, when Yasser Arafat and Shimon Peres and Yitzhak Rabin shook hands on the White House lawn, was that those days were past. By the way, I felt the same way, and I have upstairs in my study, I have a poster signed by Sadat, Begin, and Carter. And what was their dream when the peace treaty between Israel and Egypt was signed? No more war. So listen to me, Mark. Why do you think Egypt is so reluctant to let Palestinians from Gaza into Egypt? Because they know what they'll get is the Muslim Brotherhood. They know what they will get is Hamas. And so the Arab world itself, they love condemning Israel, but the Arab world itself understands the danger. And I think that is the key element. And I'm not hysterical. I'm very logical. When I wrote the book with my colleague, Icon of Evil, Hitler's Mufti and the Rise of Radical Islam, back in 2008, we predicted this, and we were severely criticized for raising these kinds of issues. I don't raise them with any joy. I raise them with a deep sense of sadness. May I tell you one other thing, please? I was part of the first interreligious dialogue. George Gross, who was a Presbyterian minister, Muhsin El-Biali, who was the Imam of Southern California, and myself. And we traveled all across the country speaking on three subjects: monotheism and revelation in our phase, the question of the contribution of our phase to civilization, but third, the sanctity of human life in light of contemporary violence. When the Munich massacre took place in 1972, Muhsin El-Biali, who was head of the Islamic Center in Southern California, came to me and we talked about it. And he condemned the Munich massacre. He was the only Muslim leader in the world to condemn that massacre. And I want you to know something. He suffered greatly.
Yeah, I was going to say the reason
and okay, ultimately was killed. He was murdered because he agreed to talk openly about the sanctity of human life.
Well, you just answered the question. That's the reason that you don't see pushback on the part of the Muslim community, because they're worried about the Muslim street. I talk about it on this show all the time, the Muslim street, and I talk about the Israeli street. I mean,
but the Israeli street isn't threatening what the Muslim street is threatening, and I don't want to make any equivalency here. Both streets exist.
Okay. My point in mentioning the Israeli street is that Netanyahu has to worry about the Israeli street. He'd already lost in large measure the Israeli street, I think you'd concede. And this attack by Hamas actually is an opportunity for Netanyahu to cling to power that he probably would lose had this not happened.
Power, because there will be a reckoning. You may remember, you're old enough to remember, in 1973 in the Yom Kippur War, when two icons, Golda Meir and Moshe Dayan, were toppled from power because they failed to protect security. In the end, Netanyahu is a transient figure. It doesn't matter who is prime minister of Israel, whether they're left or right. And that's why Israel today has a national unity government. I want to point out to you, this is not a question of personality. Israel's existence is accepted by all in Israel. But there is a question among the Palestinians. They have to ultimately agree that Hamas is a terrorist organization committed to the destruction of Israel, committing atrocities that are beyond comprehension, and the Palestinians have to get their house in order.
Well, it's going to be pretty tough to do that, John, as they sift through rubble. I mean, this is...
Excuse me, that's Gaza. Talk about the West Bank for a moment.
All right, talk about the West Bank.
Palestinian authority is. There is no authority there that is speaking up to condemn what is happening. And that is why when the Israelis are
You just explained why they don't speak up, because the last guy who spoke up in your story was killed. I mean,
Yes,
that's
but
what we
there's
talk about the
more.
Muslim street.
There is an ideological commitment. And I do this all the time, Mark. I'm deeply involved in this. When you deal, and you're hearing it today on the college campuses of America, they're calling for the destruction of Israel. And these are mainstream people in the United States of America. So when we talk about this problem, we have to understand perhaps there are two different universes. They see this problem through different eyes. You and I view it. How do you create a situation where Israel and a Palestinian state can live side by side? From the point of view of Hamas and the radical Palestinians, their only solution is the destruction of Israel. And by the way, a war against Jews in general. We live in 2023, for God's sake. And this
well,
is something...
tribalism is alive and well in 2023. It's just evolved to a technologically more dangerous place.
Which is
finally your last comments on the refugee camp bombing. Give me your thoughts on that. Again, predictable, but the reaction and worldwide horror.
The Israelis gave 3 weeks notice. 3 weeks notice. They said, move out. They said to Hamas, do not operate from the middle of civilian areas. So the Israelis waited 3 weeks and gave notice. Do you know any other nation which gives 21 days notice? I don't. And so Israel responded. It is true that innocent people have died. They died in Israel. They died in Gaza. And you have to understand it is directly at the feet of Hamas, who uses this. But more than that, I'm waiting, Mark, on college campuses. For them to condemn Israel is fine. Have you heard, can you find anywhere on the internet even a peep about condemning Hamas? And the answer is no. And therein lies the rub. There must be a clear understanding, and I want everyone listening to the sound of my voice to understand that Israel and Jews will not roll over to be sacrificed because of radical Islamic extremists in Hamas. And that is a clear, precise statement that I don't think anyone in Israel and any Jew thinking would disagree with.
John, appreciate your time. Again, the podcast is Around the Political World with John Rothman. And John stops through on Wednesdays.
Thank you, Mark. I understand how emotional this is, and I understand that I'm being particularly clear on this. I spoke last night at the Commonwealth Club here in San Francisco, and I made the same points. Everyone has to understand, if you think I am overreacting, just listen to what is happening in Israel, listen to what the Jewish community is saying, and I would respectfully ask that you consider the fact that this is a very dangerous moment for all of us.
I think that's indisputably true. So, John, thank you very much. And
I hope next week we can talk American politics. There's so much to talk about.
I'd love it. I'd love it. The great John Rothman, everybody. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Use Mark Thompson.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. It's troubled times for sure. Glad you could join us. If you have anything to say, you can say it in the comments section, both live during the show or also after hours and after hour trading. We'd love to get those comments. So you can jump on and leave them, and we'll try to share them and respond to them when appropriate. If you have a longer thing to say, you can do it via email, themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. I do want to get to Kim's news, and then when we get back, I really I'll get into some things that are not Middle East related. But I thought that's a big hunk. I mean, obviously, John is coming from the perspective of the Israelis. That's a fair perspective to have. I mean, again, you can always sit here and go, well, you know, how come I can hear this argument? I hear, yeah, okay. Well, we have, and tomorrow. We'll check in with our favorite Britisher, Anthony Davis, who's coming on the show, and we'll talk a little bit about this issue. And I suspect you'll get a slightly different perspective. Yeah, but I'm just saying it's fair to listen to someone who is so read in on the history of the region the way John Rothman is. So you may not agree with everything John Rothman has to say. You may have a different interpretation of events. That's why I give you the email address. That's why I offer the comment section to you. But I think he represents an extremely important perspective, and he dismantles it in that way, this entire issue. I have told you, and I'll just reiterate, I see no good moves for Israel. None. There are a few possibilities. We can even discuss them in greater detail tomorrow, but none of them are good. Yeah, it's once that Hamas attack went down, Israel was stuck in a really tough spot with no good options. So, we'll do a supersized news segment. I'm excited about this, Albert, because when you say super, the word super added into
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah, it creates a kind of high bar, Kim.
Kim, how are you?
We're in trouble now.
I mean, it's pretty cool to chill and I don't know what you're doing, have a cocktail, smoke a cigarette up there, whatever you're doing. But I mean, the reality is when it comes time to actually step up and give us a newscast, and this is a supersized newscast, we're holding you to a high standard. All right?
That's really rude since Albert sets the bar so low on purpose.
Yes, but
right?
if you were Albert, we would lower the bar because we expect mediocre work from Albert.
I love you,
Albert. Thank you.
But
I'm only repeating what you've said in the past.
Yeah, Albert is a self-professed C's get degrees guy.
Well, because you set the bar low, he constantly overachieves, you see?
I don't know about
We
that.
have processes and protocols and standards.
No, we have processes. The standards we do drop in for Albert. But I think his work, I'll put it this way. I didn't mean to get into a thing on your work, Albert. And you know I adore you like a family member. But what I would say is oftentimes he does surprise. I'll think he's checked out, but he actually has his act together. So
Albert, thank you. Think the bar is low, but he does it on purpose.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You also find me at the other bar. The other bar, I will overperform.
Now you've set my bar way too high, and I'm going to have to vault, and I don't know if I can handle it.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
That bar is the one he does well on. Right?
What can you tell us about the scene?
Well, like Kim is a little intimidated by the bar, Larry, by what we've expected from her.
What can you tell us about the scene?
I went to this Halloween party last night.
Oh, how was it?
Well, I'll tell you.
What can you tell us about the scene?
Well, it was a pretty sophisticated scene. Scary.
Did you have your astronaut suit on?
I had my astronaut suit on. Courtney had her astronaut suit on. So here's was pretty cool. They went big time. They went like with these animatronic, this 8 foot, maybe it was 10 feet tall, animatronic kind of angel of death thing going like that as you walk by. As you walked into the walk up to the house, there was some kind of motion detector thing that you trip, and you hear this demon speaking to you, and these red eyes light up. You're like, oh my God!
There's never been anything like this.
It was insane, and these people do go big time, elaborate.
Talk about setting the bar high.
They really, but this time went more than ever. It was super great.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
There was a reason that it was fun. So,
what can you tell us about the scene?
It was scary, Larry, but there was a bar there to take the edge off.
Did you see how many Barbies did you see? I felt like all my social media everyone was Barbie this year.
So somebody was bad Barbie there, which was good.
Oh,
yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
And there were some good outfits. I'm trying to remember what. There was a peace, like hippies kind of peace person there who I was speaking with. There was
that's kind of an easy costume. I didn't want to go buy anything, so I just raided my closet.
But she did well with it. I know, you're right. But she did well. You get to put on those mod colors, they called them back then.
Some beads, a tie-dye shirt.
Some peace signs.
Headband. I'm a hippie. Okay.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Yeah, that's right. She
That's
didn't
a
have
low
the
bar
weed.
costume.
You're right.
That's,
Didn't
yeah.
have the weed, though.
Mm-mm.
So that would have been a nice touch. Anyway, so how was your Halloween? You're the one who had kids.
Kids did great. It was fun. The candy was had, and the parties were hopping.
What did the kids go as? I mean, what can you tell us about the scene?
What can you tell us about the scene?
Jacob was the Grim Reaper with red glowing eyes.
Wow.
I only had my eye taken out with the scythe. Is that what they call it? The Grim Reaper.
The scythe or whatever.
Weaponry. About 2 times as he flicked it around.
Oh my God.
So that was good.
Was it it's a fake weapon, right?
Yeah, it's plastic,
rubber or
but
something.
it's very
Yeah,
pointy
plastic.
on the end. So
yeah, no, it can be dangerous.
There was real danger there. Yeah, and so he had a good time. And then my daughter Julia, 14. She was a fuddy-duddy, wasn't going to go out until finally at 8 o'clock she decided, all right, I'll meet some friends. So she pulled a cow costume out of her closet from 2 years ago and did that. So everybody.
Oh, that's
had
cool. So yeah, you can. I mean, after 2 years, you can dust off the costume.
Recycle. That's right.
Yeah. It snowed here, says Mary.
Where are you, Mary?
I don't know where Mary is. That's pretty intense.
Maybe? I don't know. Wow.
Oh, could be Tahoe, maybe, yeah.
What can you tell us about the scene?
What can you tell us about where you are, Mary, if it snowed? Anyway, well, we've set the high bar for Kim.
Okay.
We'll do her news and then catch up with some. Cincinnati is where Mary is, by the way.
Oh, Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati. Cool. All right, Kim's news, and then we'll join on the other side. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. Woohoo! Let's go back to the Middle East for just a moment. I know we talked a lot about it already, but to tell you the latest, this is what's happening. Civilians now beginning to leave war-torn Gaza, and they're going through the Rafah border crossing into Egypt. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby telling reporters a handful of Americans among this group of Palestinians and foreign nationals exiting Gaza. He said he expects more Americans to leave in the coming days. That crossing opened after Egypt, Hamas, and Israel agreed that up to 500 people a day may cross. So only 500 a day. Some breaking news today we haven't talked about yet is that Federal Reserve leaving interest rates unchanged for a second straight time. This comes as the economy and the labor market continues to grow. It's also as inflation is still well above the Fed's target, but the markets are reacting to all of this. The White House says President Biden will be announcing major investments in rural infrastructure today. The president is scheduled to visit a Minnesota farm located south of Minneapolis. He's expected to announce more than $5 billion in new investments in climate-smart agriculture, economic development, broadband, clean energy, and infrastructure needs in sparsely populated parts of America. Judge Tanya Chutkan is blocking Donald Trump. Look there, he's not happy about that.
Wow.
Blocking Donald Trump from seeing federal prosecutors' evidence in his federal election interference trial. Judge Chutkan issuing an order this morning blocking Trump's legal team from seeing some of the government's evidence against him that has been deemed classified. Trump's team will get an unclassified summary substitution for certain classified information instead.
There's never been anything like this.
Well, I don't know.
You know, I mean,
poor Donald Trump. I mean, here he is, the victim of all of these.
I think I'm the most honest human being perhaps that God ever created.
That's what I really wanted to say. Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
tough spot.
Talk about what's in the evidence. All of a sudden, they don't want to let you see the evidence. This is the way life goes for you.
So you think he might actually have done something wrong, Kim? Is that what you're saying?
Oh,
I'm getting that from you.
I would never say such a thing.
Okay, good. Right.
Don't talk to me that way.
All right.
Let's go to another trial, another Trumpy trial, headed over to New York. Mark mentioned this a little earlier, but yes, it's true. Donald Trump Jr. is expected to testify today in his father's civil fraud trial, different than the election interference trial. He's expected to be pressed about whether he was involved in his father's financial statements. The New York Attorney General alleges Trump's statements were inflated so he could get more favorable loans. Testimony will be followed by his brother Eric Trump, his sister Ivanka Trump, and finally, former President Trump next week. And Trump, by the way, is continuing to criticize the judge presiding over the New York civil fraud trial. On Truth Social, Trump called Judge Arthur Engoron crazy and unhinged for the decisions he's made thus far.
Wow. I mean, it's quite a party. It's a Trump
twice.
party.
I mean, I don't know what comes after 2 fines. Does he get thrown in the clink?
Well, they're saying that maybe he really will get jailed. I mean, can imagine that. I mean, but it's kind of going to be a fun little family reunion there at the courthouse. You got, Don.
Feel it in your soul.
Right, exactly. You've got Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka. I mean, it's kind of fun. All with Dad there in their, the unholy alliance is going to be reformed again for, pushing back on the legal system.
Let's go out to lunch after. It's like a lunch date. It's okay.
Yeah.
Over in New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy, pictured here, says the state Democratic Party was supposed to pay for events that he attended in 2018 and 2019. A report says taxpayers paid the $12,000 for expenses the governor spent to attend events at MetLife Stadium, like the Taylor Swift concert, a hip-hop festival, New York Jets games. What? The report.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
I know. That's 3 oh, my gods.
You mean the state of New Jersey paid for you to go see Taylor Swift? Wow. Those are expensive tickets. The report comes from public records that Politico got a hold of. Again, the governor, Phil Murphy here, says the Democratic Party was supposed to pay for it, not the taxpayers. But do you think anyone would ever have known if Politico hadn't dug in and taken a look? And all of a sudden, the Democratic, Party has to foot the bill because
it's not.
No context will suffice to explain the hurt and anguish caused by my words.
I don't know about hurt, but I think it definitely wasn't cool.
I offer this sincere apology to you
that's
today.
what I'm looking for is an apology. But he hasn't apologized. He's just explained.
The Democratic Party's supposed to pay for that. I don't know.
My bad. I'm sorry.
But you see, we're an equal opportunity caller-outer. Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. If you mess up,
well,
you take it. Wait, what?
A new car? Is that it?
Oh, is that what the taxpayers are paying for next? Oh,
that's what Menendez got in the, speaking of
he had the gold bars. Yes.
Yeah, he got gold bars and a new Mercedes. So
that's the way to do it, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll deal with that story in a moment if you want to know the Menendez
Taylor Swift tickets,
story.
Gold bars, yeah.
Yeah.
We need to get into politics. That's where the real money's coming in.
Oh, my God. It's the most legal corruption in town.
Sadly, here's a picture of lung cancer. But what we know now is that millions more people should be getting screened for lung cancer under new updated guidance. That, according to the American Cancer Society, it expanded recommendations to older adults who formerly smoked, no matter how long ago they quit. So it doesn't matter if you smoked in your 20s and you're now in your 60s, you get the updated screening. Previously, the American Cancer Society only recommended the annual screening for people who quit less than 15 years ago. It also widened now to include those with a 20-pack year history, 20-pack year history, down from 30-pack year. 30 packs a year. So if you smoked, I think that's what that means. That means nearly 5 million more people are now recommended to get screened for lung cancer. So, and that means your insurance has to pay for it, right? If it's recommended and under the guidance. So that's a good thing.
Right.
Another issue in California, millions of people are dreading PG&E's new rate hike.
Oh my God,
right.
it's huge.
Ooh, look, that's a clear one. Hello.
You reported it the other day, and I was shocked. Like 90% it's going to go up in some places, right?
Well, it has gone up that much in the last several years. The state regulators are voting tomorrow, though, on raising the prices again. The utility says the money is needed to put 21,000 miles of power lines underground, but they admit it won't cover costs for all the improvements to reduce the wildfire risk in California. Customers could be paying $25 to $31 more every month come January. Bills have shot up almost $90 in just the last 8 years. So Whew, it's a lot. It seems like every time you turn around, somebody wants something else.
Yeah, it's not PG&E. They really only know one kind of rate. It's the rate hike.
It's the rate hike. It's
Right,
the
they
more
don't-
money. Put your hand
Yeah.
out. Give me. You're gonna have to bear with me a little bit on this next story because there was a big fire this morning, and I have video that I would like to show you. This is 3 boats. They caught fire at the Oyster Cove Marina near Oyster Point in South San Francisco early this morning.
I saw something on this earlier today. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, all of these boats, the 3 of them, were tied together when the flames broke out. There were several adults on board the boats as well.
Wow.
All of them successfully rescued from the water. One person had to be taken to the hospital, though, with minor injuries. Firefighters confirming that today. And again, it's, this is one of those stories where it's the, let's see if I can show you. It is the picture that really tells you the
I got
scene,
it,
so you
Kim.
can
Don't worry about
Oh,
it.
thank you. Oh, I was looking for that. Yeah, see the video there. This is Oyster Point in San Francisco. You can see those boats just went up in flames this morning.
They don't have
Yeah.
a cause of the fire yet?
No, they don't know what happened there.
Hmm.
Yeah, but the 3 people that jumped off, they're all safe. Thank you, Albert. I appreciate that. Albert's the one that saves the day. See
Albert,
the bar. We
Albert,
say the
thank you.
bar's
He did.
low,
He
jumps
stepped
right
up.
over it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
stepped up.
X is shutting down its circles. Did you ever use circles? It was supposed to be this thing where you could only share with a certain number of friends or
No.
people that you had on X.
I never used it. Maybe that's what
You're not going to
spelled
be
its
able to
doom.
use it anymore.
Yeah, couldn't get Mark Thompson
Party
to use it.
over. That's it.
Right.
Yeah, X is shutting down circles. This feature allowed users to post to a small group of friends rather than the entire internet. Users on the platform started complaining in the spring about a glitch that was making their circles posts appear to larger audiences than they had expected. So now circles is dead. Yeah, it's okay. We're going to get through it, I think. Does it bother you?
Well, I never was on it, so it doesn't really
Oh.
affect me. But
let's
sure
move-
if it was doing very well, they would overlook whatever glitches. I think it's
Yeah.
not. It's turned out not to be a net loser for them.
Let's move to Tinder. Dating app Tinder announcing a new $500 per month option for those seeking romance on the platform. $500 a month. It's part of the Tinder Select line of offerings.
What the
becoming-
hell is going on in the United States of America?
It is the 4th highest tier option. In exchange for the $500 a month, top tier users will be able to directly contact other users twice a week, even
Oh.
if they don't match. So you don't have
That's
to match
not
with the
fake.
person.
That's real.
Yeah.
They also receive a digital badge that shows off their exclusive tier. While
Yeah.
acknowledging this will likely impact a small number of Tinder payers, Bloomberg reports the company's CFO said it should boost Tinder's overall revenue and profitability.
Sure.
So if you're on Tinder, like I'm not, obviously I'm married, I'm not dating, what have you, but if I was, and I knew that somebody was paying the $500 a month, I'm thinking, they're dating an awful lot of people. Like they're not, looking for the exclusive person. They're
Why do you-
No, that's
why do
a
you
huge
say
red
that?
flag. That's a huge
Well,
red
wait,
flag.
Right?
I don't understand. Well, hold on a
Yeah.
second.
No,
Why
that's
is it?
a re-
Why if they're paying for the higher tier, are they necessarily dating more people?
Well, because they want to message all the different ladies or whoever, men.
Well, they
whoever
want the
you're looking
ability to
for.
message. They want ability to message people.
They want to
Why is that
offer more messaging. They want to contact people they haven't been matched.
Why is that? Why isn't that? Why do you
their-
assume that they are
their
more
reach is widespread. They're not-
licentious than you would be? That's a
They're
big
not
word.
meeting a woman or meeting a person for coffee and seeing if and then moving on to the next person. They're dating everybody all at once.
Well, you know what I would say?
Everywhere, all at
Sounds like
once.
fun to me. Yeah, exactly.
I think
wish
that's a
I
red
were the
flag.
top tier
I would
of
stay
Tinder.
away from those people with
Right.
the select. Like, wow, they're spending
Thank
that
you,
much
Albert.
money doing this.
I am
Right.
all about those people. Yeah.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
They're
Yeah.
looking for, and there's nothing wrong with it. They're looking for sexy times, not a
They're
relationship.
looking to road test a lot of people before they make a decision. That's all, everybody, and I
That's what the
support
kids
it.
are calling it now, road test. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm calling it. Yeah, this kid is calling it that. So
A Santa Cruz woman is proving it's never too late to make dreams come true. At 64 years old, she has been chosen to represent the United States at the World Skate Games in Italy next September.
Wow.
Her name is Judy Oyama.
There's never been anything like this.
She's a slalom racer, which is a timed sport involving cutting in and out of cones. She says that's why she likes it. She's been skating since her teens. She's now training 5 days a week to get ready for the World Skate Games in Italy. Judith Oyama, 64 years old, out of Santa Cruz. We hope you have great success.
That is really, really cool.
Do you have a secret talent?
Yeah, apparently it's not a secret anymore, Larry. She's out there. Judy Oyama.
Just people in Santa Cruz, you know, they're surfing, they're skating.
How old is she again?
64.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, imagine realizing your dreams at 64. And, you know, maybe you worked your whole life. You never really had time to train and do what you want to do. And now she's out there with her skateboard getting it done.
I'm loving it.
Tell your little friends, the dreams do come true.
That's true.
Rock on,
She doesn't
Judy.
have to wait for the snow either. Like slalom's like a few months out of the year. She could skateboard 24/7.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to fall when you're 64. Oh, you don't want to fall off that skateboard. Trust me. You know.
Well, she's taking all kinds of chances. Judy is so cool, says S. Jones. Yeah, she is.
Yeah,
Judy rocks.
she is.
This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. So nice. Such good wine. Such friendly people. They still have the grape stomps, a couple of them this month. And they have the Mark Thompson Why Are You Yelling Red, along with 14 whites and 14 reds if you want to go to the tasting room and check it all out. But whether you order by just calling Rich at 925-699-4576, whether you go to the website or whether you jump out to the winery, however you do it, you get 10% off exclusively for being a Mark Thompson Show listener.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
Of course,
You
there's
do
alcohol
have to
involved.
call and say, smash it with your iron
Smash
rod.
it with your iron rod.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay,
you
and
do.
you get 10% off if you say
And
smash with your iron rod.
You got to
10%
say it.
off anything.
And the whole, everything. Whatever they're selling, you get the 10% off.
Yeah.
Because you're a Mark Thompson Show listener. Our thanks to Tenuta Vineyards for sponsoring.
I have a question, Albert. This is a technical question. I can ask Kim, too, but I'm going to ask Albert.
Oh, there's something with
Albert,
Albert, thank you.
why can't I get that picture off to one side so you can see Kim? And why is it in the middle of the screen like that?
It's an overlay, so we need there's a different method to get this on a separate screen.
Can you do it? Can you do it again for me right now with it over to one side?
I'd need the actual photo on my computer to do that.
So can you tell Kim how to do it so it's off to one side? Because it just looks awkward. They're in the middle.
Yeah,
like
we might have to do this after hours, maybe.
Yeah, we'll do it after
the-
hours, but we live out loud on this show, and it's a learning process.
All
and I'm
my
suggesting,
pictures cover up the screen. You want me to do it differently?
Yeah, I think they can go to the right. I think they could go to the right
You don't
of the
like
screen.
I agree, yeah.
Trump in the middle of the screen yelling doesn't float your boat?
I think it should go to the right. See how it's
No.
partially covering me? It's
Trump
a small
mugshot
point.
in the middle?
Yeah, I love your visuals.
Yeah.
But I think that they should be off to one
We
side.
have processes and protocols
very,
and
very
standards.
picky. You're very picky.
Look,
And
I hold our
don't-
show to the same high standard that I
Listen,
hold myself.
You're lucky you get pictures, my friend.
Oh,
That's all
my
I have
God.
to say.
Oh
Yeah.
my God! Listen to that, Albert. I cannot
Do
believe.
you know who I am?
I
Kind
really
of a big deal.
Thank you.
It's the
I
news
don't know
with
who-
attitude on the
Kim,
Mark
how are you?
Thompson Show. That's
Because
right.
I want to move the pictures so that they're visible, so I want it to look better. All of a sudden, I'm the bad guy. It's unbelievable on this show.
Why are you yelling?
I'm Kim McAllister. It is, after all, the Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Kim, how are you?
Who's Mark Thompson?
Albert, thank you.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
That's not fake. That's real. I misspoke.
It's fantastic.
There's never been anything like this.
Don't talk to me that way. We've never seen anything like it before.
Can you let him finish, sir? Nobody has ever put something like this together that I've ever seen.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
Big shout out.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Let me kick down the door and talk to my chief sons and daughters.
My bad. I'm sorry.
I don't think you should apologize for how you feel.
Did you really just do that?
Wow, I was just getting into that groove, Albert. I don't know. I mean, I hate to.
We can run it back, Mark, if you want. Let's maybe one more time.
You want to do the groove one more time? Is that what you're saying? No, I don't. I don't. Thank you, though. I must just quickly address a quick. This is super quick. Somebody said, Mark, I don't understand why you had to go to the doctor yesterday for flu symptoms from the flu vaccine.
No, that's not why.
That's not why I went to the doctor. I did have a reaction from the flu vaccine, but it was just, like I felt body ache and all that stuff, and it did pass within a day. But I went to the hand doctor. I was a totally different doctor appointment. And the hand doctor, and I've told you about him before, he's such a big star, this hand doctor, that it takes 3 months to get an appointment. And then the only appointment they had was during the show.
Yeah.
So I had to do like an hour of the show. And yesterday, the second hour, Kim so beautifully did the whole thing. But they're now talking about, I'm going to need surgery on this hand. So, and the reason that's important to the audience is because this is the hand where I do. It's my Amanda Atta hand. Yeah.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, you can imagine then. I'm going to, there's no way for me to, like all your favorites.
What?
Exactly. Like the what? I won't be able to. Anyway, it was not. It was
You're
not.
You're going to have to get like a little gadget that allows you to whack the right button.
It's trigger finger, exactly. That's what it's called, Chris. The thing that I will tell you, and you guys, I think a lot of our audience actually may have experience with this, or at least you can relate to it. I think everybody can relate to what I'm about to say. When somebody says you need surgery, like I have a herniated disc in my neck, and they always say, we should take it out, blah, 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 blah. You always go, well, how much is this thing impeding your normal activity? Mm-hmm. And in other words, how badly do you think that, like right now, I can clench my fist. There's some pain, but I can do it. But in the morning, I can't close the fingers totally swollen. So he looked at it with an ultrasound and blah, blah, blah. And he said, I think you should have surgery. So
why not?
And this guy is like the rock star of hand surgeons. So I don't know.
I understand it's kind of I know it's surgery and that it's always risky, but I was reading about it because I know you have this thing. And so I was kind of looking about, what they do for that. Because I'm interested. And I want to, when you talk to me about it, I want to be able to respond intelligently.
Well, you know what? That's really cool. Albert, why can't you be like your sister, Kim?
Kim, how are you?
And yeah, go ahead.
Why can't you be more like your sister?
Exactly.
So I was looking at this surgery, the trigger finger surgery, and it's really not that complicated, and it's not that long of a recovery time either. So
right. He said it. What? Yeah, it's like it's right here. They're going to do that's where they do it. And it's a local, they numb your hand, but it's local.
Right.
So you don't get to go under.
I mean, so it seems to make sense if it's causing you that much trouble to just go get it dealt with.
Yeah. So that'll be in the new year because I need to be, now there's travel planned and everything. And so I can't.
Dr. Kim has spoken.
Yeah, no, I actually do appreciate that. It matters. So
you could get it done right before the cruise, and then you could have all that recovery time. And
no, I want to be. If there's any kind of problem, I want to be in town and be able to reach the rock star doctor.
Or
not going on that
schedule
cruise,
it during the cruise, and then the only surgery date is during the cruise. So
that's the way I get out of it. Oh yes.
Oh no.
I'm actually looking. I'll tell you guys this between us girls. I'm looking at joining the cruise halfway through. to see if there's a way that I can join, because it's
You
like
a helicopter
a train,
in
they
or
make
something?
stops.
That sounds awesome.
I love
Like the superstar you are.
I
Who's that in
love
a helicopter?
helicoptering
Ooh,
in
that's
halfway
Mark
through.
Thompson.
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It's a great idea.
Everybody
it's a Tom
looking at the
Cruise
chopper
entrance.
to see
Yes.
when the door opens, whose leg is getting out.
Yeah, baby, come on. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that means
kind
you're
of a big
leaving
deal.
Courtney to travel by herself for the first leg of the journey.
Exactly.
No
and
bueno,
she'll be
man.
fine.
No,
she'll be fine.
you gotta go with her.
No. Anyway, that's what I'm considering joining halfway through. So I wanted
we
to
must protect Mark T at all costs, says S. Jones. It's true.
Thank you. S. Jones gets the idea. I wanted to
Heather says you'll be back flipping the bird in no time at all.
I want to thank Lori and Ann and Pippin and David and Susan. These are all PayPal contributors. People on PayPal. Love you. Terry and Roberta. Elaine. And this is really, really cool.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to all of you on PayPal who join us and who have been with us since the very beginning. We're only here because of you, for real. And I just wanted to make sure that we do run everybody's name at the end of the show, but I don't want you to think in any way that I don't recognize on a regular basis the way our Patreon and PayPal supporters have made this show happen and continue to keep it on the air. Pat is our latest. Every time somebody joins or makes a contribution, I get a little notification, and then I write back to that person within a day or two. And that is always an original message. I'll write something, And when somebody leaves our community, I also get and that's like, ooh, I wonder if I said something that, angered someone. But Pat and Alice and Daryl and Mike and Dave and Heather, thank you so much. You guys all make such a big difference. Big shout out. Yeah. And this, Kim McTwo. McSee, the rescue. Mark, you can leave anytime and Kim will keep it going. Yeah, Kim to the rescue. I get it. Kim McAllister to the rescue. You were to the rescue yesterday. Blue Liz 420.
Blue eyes, blue eyes. I had the same problem with that one. Blue eyes, because it just gets like the eyes kind of blend together, but it's blue eyes 420. Yeah.
Oh, the eyes. Oh, you're right.
I know.
It looks like an L from where I am.
It does, right? Yeah, I know. I had to look at it.
The 420s because of this L.
Where are my weed smokers at?
I mean, right? Yeah. You may remember we had one of the crew that invented 420. They live in Marin. We had one of that crew on this show. Pinky, what up with $1 a day? Up to $2 today.
Big shout out.
Thank you for super stickers and super chats. Again, crowdfunded, so that truly does help. By the way, in the middle of all of this stuff in the Middle East, you saw that Jack Lew was confirmed as the new U.S. ambassador to Israel. Wow. Congratulations, Jack. It's the dream assignment right now. The U.S. Senate confirming former Treasury Secretary Jack Lew as the new U.S. ambassador to Israel. He served under Clinton and Obama, ran OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, and so now he's jumped into the fray. Couldn't have you talk about a fixer-upper. Where you buy a house and you go, okay, let's see, what's this house going to need? Well, it's really it's probably a tear down. Yeah, well, we can't tear it down, dude. That's not an option. So what else would you do? Well, you're going to have to, get an architect in here. You're going to have to get, we got people living there. We're going to have to rebuild it while people are living. Yep. Good luck. You'll need a group of contractors on that house. So. I do have news that might interest you about a corrupt senator. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Allegedly corrupt. That Menendez senator, he's what can you say? Caught with the gold bars, as you may recall, and with all the cash. Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey. His wife, increasingly, is the focus of attention. Now, she was the focus of attention largely, apparently, it's described in various press reports, because of sort of the way she dressed. It was a very kind of, she kind of led with the sexy, you know. And she was his second wife, and she married him at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, although I think they met in 2018 at an IHOP restaurant. You don't associate people who have gold bars and cash stuffed into various jackets on their closet as regulars at IHOP, but apparently they are.
He must have been paying the $500 a month Tinder Select fee.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
If somebody on a first date said, let's meet at IHOP, it might be, right? Yeah,
No.
I'm guessing. But he was very intelligent and had a great sense of humor and was very, very hot, she told the New York Times in a 2021 puff piece that they did about their marriage.
Wait, does hot mean he has a lot of money? Is that what hot means?
I mean, everybody's got their different definition of hot.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, let me just say, Kim, there's nothing wrong with being attracted to somebody for money, if that's your thing. You know what I mean? That's why I always say, well, she only married him for his money. Well, so what? If that's what she wants, then she's got money.
So I know you hate the way I show pictures, but this is what she's considering hot.
Well,
I'm just saying.
He's there in front of the flags.
Like,
that's kind of a good look.
I mean, you know, yes, there's a big definition of hot. He's not a bad looking guy. I mean, he's cute little nose and he's.
Oh my God, Kim.
He's not hot.
Got
a full head of hair, working teeth.
I think he's very attractive. Mm-hmm. And of course, the more you dump on him, the more I like him.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, but I think
you date him, you get a gold bar, so you could go for that.
Look, again,
he's very hot. If you
I want to
met
move
this
on
guy
to
at
her
an
in a
IHOP,
second.
you meet him at an IHOP, you're thinking, oh, hello. No, you're not thinking that.
There's never been anything like this.
I would say this.
You're thinking, look at that old dude.
They used to say this about Anna Nicole Smith. You remember Anna Nicole Smith? She was the, the guest model. Right. Big bug. She married that Texas oil billionaire.
Who was like 900 years old.
Right. He was 91, I think.
Whatever.
Or
really
whatever. Old. Okay. So in the neighborhood of 90. So at the time, people were saying, Mark, can you believe that? I mean, she's just marrying him for his money, and he's just marrying her because she's hot. Yeah, what's wrong with that? I mean, I don't. Yeah, they both look happy to me. I see it as a.
Yeah, he looks very happy.
You want everybody to bond over their poetry that they've written, and in their spare time. It just doesn't happen. I sanction all unions, regardless of how superficial they are. And again, he went down with a smile on his face. Mm-hmm. And she was happy too.
And then there was a big fight over the money.
Yeah.
Right? It ended up being about the money.
Anna's man was starting to mummify, says S. Jones.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
He
That's
was
a good
old.
one.
He was old. It's true. But they do. Again, he had a smile on his face, and he looks older than 91. She says.
900. I maintain the guy was 900 years old. Yes.
I didn't know this. On back to the Menendez thing. Ron Cook says, I feel bad for Menendez's daughter, who's an anchor on MSNBC and had to recuse herself from commenting on her dad again for fraud. Is that right? Who's the daughter?
No, let me look it up.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's interesting.
Google it.
Yeah. So apparently Menendez, he may not be your flavor. Oh yeah, Alicia Menendez, MSNBC host. Yeah. The reality is he may not be your flavor, Kim, but he was known, Menendez was, as something of a ladies' man. Yeah.
I'm telling you, the $500 a month Tinder app, that's what you
By
get.
2018, he'd split with his latest girlfriend because of tension over the intense media scrutiny brought by his 2015 corruption indictment. And those charges were dropped, as you know, 3 years later. The jury couldn't reach a verdict. And Nadine was a divorcee. She began dating in 2011. She's the other half of this Menendez alliance that has been indicted.
Here's the daughter, in case you want to see the daughter's picture.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
Alicia Menendez.
Menendez's, current wife began dating a lawyer who represented R. Kelly during his sex trafficking trial. And the lawyer said that she didn't have a lot of nice things to say about her. Yeah. Now, but then they're exes, they split up, who knows? Maybe that's the reason. But anyway, she's increasingly the focus of all of this. I mean, it's even suggested that, it was a deliberate thing for her to insinuate herself on Menendez, who, again, was this guy who's known as a ladies' man. Nadine Arisianian, is that how she said it, her maiden name? And she got the new car, right? Her old car was wrecked. She killed a guy in her old car, okay? That's how it got wrecked. He was a 49-year-old father on a darkened Bogota, New Jersey street. And she complained in text messages after that accident about not having the car to drive. Sometime later, she sent photos from a car dealership to Menendez, Robert Menendez, the senator that she was going to marry, to ask what color he liked more. In April of 2019, a replacement vehicle finally arrived, a black $60,000 Mercedes-Benz C300 convertible. You'll note that was one of the things mentioned in his corruption trial, right? And she is someone who she's a tall, striking blonde, they say.
Yeah.
And she's been photographed historically with a bunch of minor celebrities, reality TV stars, and New Jersey socialites. Now she has brought this glamorous, bizarre twist to a political scandal that has roiled the Democratic Party and helped place Menendez's decades-long political career in the crosshairs yet again. I mean, he was able to dodge the last corruption trial. He may not be able to dodge the charges on this one. Federal prosecutors have charged her and her husband, Menendez, along with 3 businessmen, with bribery. They say that she and Menendez got the car, cash, gold bars, payments toward Arsianian's mortgage and home furnishings, all as part of a brazen scheme to profit off Menendez's power and influence as a senator. And recently, I want to say less than a month ago, prosecutors filed new charges against both of them, saying they conspired to have Menendez act as a foreign agent in connection with this bribery scandal. It's all pretty ugly. By the way, you know who prosecuted Menendez the last time? Couldn't get the charges to stick. Chris Christie. That's
Really?
right. Yeah, he was the U.S. attorney for New Jersey at the time in 2006. So, Menendez is a guy who's spent a couple of days in court, but he's been able to shake it. And it was said about her, Arsianian, quote, liked nice things. Her former boyfriend, the lawyer,
not a surprise.
he says, quote, I probably spent $300,000 or $400,000 on her while we were together.
Wow.
Trips, bags, shoes.
Yikes.
Every bag you see her with is mine, he said. And I might try to get some of them back from the U.S. attorney if they seized any of them. So, again, she was striking and is striking. Born in Beirut, Lebanon, to Armenian parents who brought her to the United States when she was a child. She went to NYU for undergraduate and graduate school, got a master's in French language, and began her rise up the ladder. Married somebody, child support,
what
alimony.
Language should I select? What language has the most rich guys? Right?
She's had a murky professional life, too. Mm-hmm. She's called an international businesswoman in their wedding announcement. That's what they called her. But it's really not clear what business affiliation she had before the marriage to Menendez. The indictment describes her as unemployed. And friends told the New York Times in August that she never worked outside the home while she raised her 2 children. She briefly worked as a hostess at a New Jersey seafood restaurant. But she's really just a high society lady.
It's just a side gig. International businesswoman by day, hostess at a seafood restaurant by night.
She attended a bunch of parties with the cast from The Real Housewives of New Jersey and Mob Wives. Mm-hmm. You know the show Mob Wives? Yeah, you know.
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
Their wives are in the show. Those guys are in prison. And again, she was photographed making colorful, scenes in various photographs. Anyway, she is now increasingly the focus of these indictments, and she appears to be hip deep in this corruption alongside Menendez, is the allegation anyway. So as that proceeds, she's a piece of work. There's no question about it.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, Albert, it is, what can I say?
I have a entry into the Mark Thompson Show finale. You asked me to keep tabs on Trump Jr.
Yes.
Trial.
Have they pushed him to tomorrow, or is he going to testify today?
No, he was up there. He was doing it. His quote is, and you kind of mentioned this earlier a little bit, Trump Jr. on accounting practices at the Trump Organization. The quote is, I leave it to my accountants. So it looks like they expect the accountants to fall on the sword. They're going to blame all the accountants that they're supposed to take the thing. He says, I rely on the accountants' opinions and their assessments to make all those decisions, all the accounting decisions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's reasonable. That's a reasonable way to go. Mm-hmm. Did you dye your hair, Mark? This comes in on the email from Itzhak Gonzalez. Big shout out to Itzhak Gonzalez. Come on, Albert. How about a shout out?
Big shout out.
Thank you. Yeah. This is
I've received a lot of positive letters.
This comes in. Did you dye your hair, Mark?
You didn't, did you?
Oh, my God. I dye it so much that I don't know even what color it is today. Well, I'll tell you what I do. I have to add some gray because it's remarkable. I'm a freak of nature with no gray at my age. So I actually I'm going a little bit later today for the procedure. But the lighting, to be fair,
like a surgery? What kind of procedure? You mean like a hair dyeing?
to the hairstylist to the stars.
I
go to the hairstylist to the stars
before you hop in the chopper and head to the cruise ship.
Well, I'm not. You can exaggerate it like that, but the truth is, it is many people. I'm in between notable luminaries, and when
do you know who I am?
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm kind of a big deal.
A lot of heads go in front of my hairstylist. So yes, it's a very good catch. But the lighting also affects how the hair looks day to day, as you're well. I also got this from the Mark Thompson mailbag.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
The Mark Thompson Show mailbag. I love that concept. It's titled, Why Are You Yelling Coffee? This is from Karen. Hi, Mark and team. I ordered the decaf. Why are you yelling coffee? Oh, yeah, we haven't mentioned our decaf brand.
Why are you yelling?
They have at Coachella Valley Coffee the Why Are You Yelling decaf.
Right.
I received it today and had to try a cup. I want to let you know that I love this blend.
Nice.
Good dark roast decaf is impossible to find, so we'll continue to order from Coachella Valley Coffee. Thanks for all you do. Karen from Chico. Wow. Big shout out, Karen.
Big shout out.
Thank you for our thank you for what I was going to say is patronizing our sponsor, for supporting our sponsor, and I'm glad you're happy. I mean, I think that they're legit. I wouldn't everything I say is from the heart. They're magnificent in every way at Coachella Valley Coffee, as you know. Their business practices, the coffee, the way the beans are sourced, that it's fresh grow. I mean, all of the regular coffee that's not decaffeinated is amazing as well. It's simply the best coffee I've ever tasted. And you should check out their website. Pick out the blend that's right for you. You know, the blend of beans or the beans that are right for you. Their tasting notes and everything. I didn't mean to turn into commercial, but I did want to respond to Karen, who just hit me with that email. So CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And when you check out, use that discount code. It's MarkT. 10% off. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Love that too. So I think we addressed the hair dye issue, the emerging controversy, and I think we addressed the good news about a happy customer at Coachella Valley Coffee. What we must do tomorrow, Albert, is welcome Anthony Davis, who is my favorite Britisher, as you know, although it's close. That's always...
I don't have him
Who else is
scheduled.
on the list, though, Mark?
Did you schedule him without my knowledge?
I did. I scheduled him without your knowledge. I meant to tell you. Well,
I guess there's an indication that my time here is short-lived.
Well, Kim, thank you. Kim,
how are you?
I'm just saying we've enjoyed your last week on the show. You're great.
Yeah.
Get nothing.
No, no, I just haven't had a chance. I mean, it's been so crazy.
Yeah.
But I will talk to Anthony tomorrow. We'll discuss Middle East. We'll discuss other things. And he from the Midas Touch Network, as you know. And tomorrow brings David Katz into the show. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. So I'm losing track exactly. I don't think I have time to do Stories from the Sky. Can I do it tomorrow?
Yeah, we could definitely push it tomorrow.
Okay. So closing remarks. We'll start with you, Kim. Closing. Anything you want to say?
Kim, how are you?
I do want to bring up a listener email that we got. This gentleman, Matt, said he had emailed us twice, and for whatever reason, his email was not received. And
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Maybe it was lost in the positive letters. Yeah.
Contribution to the show. I know we only usually read negative letters, but he had some really nice things to say.
Oh, well, then let's take a second and read it.
He said he grew up in San Jose, very fond memories of being dropped off at school listening to KGO in the family station wagon during the 80s and 90s. He said he later grew to listen and love KGO on his own. Lists all the hosts that he liked. He said, I was listening when you went off the air. I was confused. I was heartbroken. And then Raj Mathai, he said, broke the news to him on NBC Bay Area.
Yeah, big shout out to Raj Mathai.
Big shout out.
The only station that reported on KGO going off the air. It's unconscionable that the local stations in San Francisco didn't report that KGO was going off the air. The kind of legacy that KGO had, it's outrageous, Albert.
Why are you yelling?
He said he could hear the emotion in Raj Mathai's voice when he reported that.
Raj, Albert, excuse me, Kim, I'm sorry. But when are we going to schedule Raj to be on the show, Albert? I blame you.
I can send him a text now. It's one of my cool brags. I could text him and Dan Ashley.
Okay.
I can just...
Well, I need Raj on the show, Albert, and we need him soon, please.
Yeah, maybe he could talk about our Niners, who seem to be trending in the wrong direction, but they did make a couple big moves. So the perfect excuse.
Okay, so that's good. We can try to get Raj on.
Albert, thank you.
Maybe even in the next week or so. But anyway, go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
Matt says, I actually went into depression. My family, he considers us his family, was gone with zero notice at all. Oh, Matt. As many has stated before, what a pleasure it was to find you on YouTube. I felt a sense of calm and rejuvenation. And two, I find myself counting and evaluating ding words with friends and family, even saying smash it with your iron rod as I break concrete. I'm a landscape contractor.
I love it.
Smash it with your iron rod.
He said, I break concrete regularly. I was on the fence about writing an anniversary letter, as I knew I didn't want to do a video or voice message since I don't like my voice or image. But John Rothman said on the show that we need you. And so he said he took those words in to heart and wrote this letter. He said it's entertainment, the show, but it's so enjoyable. And the reality of it is you and the Mark Thompson team, he means you, Mark, provide an immeasurable service, truly invaluable. I know it's a slow crawl, but please keep going and keep up the Mark Thompson Show professionalism. Love you guys. Quit picking on Brett. I also have a text from Mother Teresa while wondering what the porn stars are doing.
Wow.
I'm getting down to 5% battery, so I better thank whoever's producing this thing. That's from Matt, the Dodge guy on YouTube.
Oh,
you're down to 5% battery.
We don't use that anymore, Albert. How come we don't use the? Remember when we? Yeah,
we use it all the time.
Of all of the drops that we don't use anymore, like we don't use the why don't you just text it, and we don't use the here's a tweet from Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
But of all, and so we don't use your down to 5%, but of all of them, that's the one that still is great. And it was the great thing about that drop is that from the standpoint of running the show on KGO where we had to hit certain breaks, sometimes you just had to cut somebody off, and then Albert could just slam.
You're
that.
Down to 5% battery,
and that's that.
And when they knew, hey, we're done. You know?
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, our thanks to Matt for the contribution and the really nice letter. Yeah,
the Dodge guy. What up, Matt? Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you for that, pal. Really, really cool. Wow, we've done a lot today, and I even got in a positive letter. I'm almost uncomfortable with positive. I'm used to dealing with letters that start, how can you say, what do you mean when you say.
What you are talking about.
Yeah, you do not know what you're, exactly. I'm used to those. But, well, I'll tell you, you know what I look forward to. The after party live, baby.
That's right.
Oh, no, the after party.
We'll do it live.
Yes.
I'll write it and we'll do it live.
So the after party live starts over on the Chit channel. Yeah, it's over on the after party live channel.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
I heard it the first time. Thank you. Tomorrow, Anthony Davis from the Midas Network, David Katz from the Mark Thompson Show Network, and more. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for sharing the show.
I'm
and until
Shadow
tomorrow.
Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Shadow's going to the Hall of Fame, the Broadcast Hall of Fame.
What? Awesome. Bye.
Yeah, we'll book him as well, along with Raj Mathai. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.